My mom stole disability checks in my name and lied about my dad being dead, so I kicked her out of my life. Now, a year later, she's calling from jail, promising hidden money if I save her. She'll never be normal. My stepdad said it over the phone, didn't even try to hide it, just assumed I was always too R-worded to understand what was going on. You see, I have mosaic Down syndrome. For those who don't know, it means that I have an extra copy of chromosome 21 in some, but not all, of the body's cells, which translates to this. I look like I have Down syndrome, and people assume I'm fully disabled, but I have the same level of intelligence as anyone else. And my stepdad never used the R word. Heck, he never even called me stupid, just looked through me like I was the furniture that came with the house. When teachers said I was making progress, he'd nod and change the subject. When I won an award for my art project, he put it in the drawer, not on the fridge where my half-sister's stick figures lived. But with Emma and Chloe, he was super dad. Read stories with voices, helped with homework, bragged about their test scores. My girls are sharp as tacks, he'd tell anyone who'd listen. Never our girls, never including me. Mom would squeeze my shoulder when he did it, like that fixed anything. Your stepdad means well, she'd say. He just doesn't know how to connect with you. I knew the story by heart. My birth father died in a car accident when I was 6 months old. I was too young to remember him. Mom met David when I was 3, and he'd been generous enough to take us both on. You're lucky, Mom would say. Not many men would raise someone else's child, especially, she never finished that sentence, but I knew what came next, especially a child like me. In the lead up to my 13th birthday, I tried to convince myself that my parents would go all out for me, that they would pull through and finally make a day about me, instead of Emma and Chloe. And in the end, they did get me a gift, except it wasn't for me. It was for Emma and Chloe. They had gotten them 3 things each that they had circled in the magazine toy catalog. When I reached my hand out to ask if I could share, my dad slapped it and told me to stop being so selfish. And that's how my entire family spent my birthday in a restaurant without me. So I did what I always did when I was bored and alone. I went through the attic. I started off with the usual old pictures of my mom, the ones before I was born. She looked happier, brighter, but then I found a stack of photos I'd never seen before, and they weren't dusty, because they were new. They all read Michael 2016 wedding on the back. My hands were trembling, because Michael was my dad's name, and he died in 2003, or so I thought. There were more photos. Michael at what looked like Special Olympics events. Michael holding a certificate. Advocate of the Year, Down Syndrome Association. My hands trembled as I found the letters underneath, dozens of them, all addressed to me, all unopened. My sweet Gertrude, one began. Today you are 7. I wonder if you still love butterflies like when you were small. Page after page of a father I'd never known existed, writing to a daughter he wasn't allowed to see. He talked about his job at the garden center, how he'd memorized every plant's Latin name, about swimming medals and pottery classes, about the apartment he kept ready, just in case. At the bottom of the stack was a court document, custody hearing, mom's signature on every page. Michael is not equipped to raise a child with special needs, her statement read. It's better for Gertrude to believe he's passed. A clean break. They took me from him because he had Down syndrome, because mom thought one of us was enough of a burden. That's when I heard the garage door open. It was the sound of my family coming home. My half-sisters were giggling, while my mom was practically singing about how good of a time she had. I shoved everything back except one photo and went to my room, because on the back of it was my dad's phone number, but I was scared to call. What if he didn't want to see me? What if he hated me for not being like the other kids? The breaking point came when Emma took my good colored pencils. It was the only new thing either of my parents had bought for me in 3 years. All I said was, "Can you just use your own?" And suddenly, all hell broke loose. She started screaming, crying at the top of her lungs, saying, "Gertrude is abusing me again." Suddenly, my stepdad barged in and immediately took her side. But instead of just grounding me, or sending me to my room, he said, "No wonder your effing dad is dead. Probably saw what was wrong with you and drove into that tree on purpose." Something inside me snapped. I went to my room and dialed my birth dad's phone number. "Oh my gosh, Gertrude, is that you?" No one had ever sounded so happy to hear from me. But just before I could respond, my stepdad grabbed the phone and smashed it to smithereens. David's face twisted into something ugly as he stomped on the phone pieces, grinding them into the carpet with his heel. The plastic crunched and splintered, scattering across my bedroom floor like broken promises. I dropped to my knees, pretending to clean up the mess while my fingers searched for the one thing that mattered. The SIM card had popped out during the impact, sliding under my dresser. I palmed it quickly, shoving it into my pocket while gathering the larger pieces. "Clean this up properly," David barked, standing over me, "and don't even think about trying something like that again." Mom appeared in the doorway, wringing her hands. She looked between us, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Emma peeked out from behind her, a small smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. "David, maybe we should," Mom started. "Maybe we should what?" He whirled on her. "Let her contact random strangers? You know how easily people like her can be manipulated. People like her. People like me. People like my dad." I kept my head down, sweeping phone fragments into my hand. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I forced my movements to stay slow and clumsy, playing the part they expected. Let them think I was too simple to plan anything. That night, I waited until the house settled into sleep. David's snoring rumbled through the walls. I crept downstairs, avoiding the creaky third step, and made my way to the kitchen phone. My hands shook as I dialed the number I'd memorized from the photo. "Hello?" The voice was groggy but kind. "It's me," I whispered, cupping my hand around the receiver. "It's Gertrude. Please don't hang up." "Oh, sweetie, I would never." His voice cracked. "Are you okay? Are you safe?" The concern in his voice made my throat tight. When was the last time someone asked if I was safe? My stepdad broke my phone. He doesn't want me talking to you, but I need to see you. Where are you? I'll come right now. I gave him the address, told him to park down the street street at the corner gas station. He said he'd be there in 20 minutes. I hung up and crept back upstairs, changed into jeans and a hoodie, stuffed some clothes into my backpack. The burner phone I'd bought with saved lunch money was hidden in my closet. I grabbed it and typed out a quick text to the number he'd given me. "It's Gertrude. I'm coming." The window in my room didn't open wide enough, so I had to risk the stairs again. Each step felt like a thunderclap. Emma's door creaked open just as I reached the bottom. We locked eyes across the hallway. For a moment, I thought she'd scream, wake everyone up, but she just stared at me, then slowly closed her door. The night air hit my face, cold and sharp. I ran down the street, my backpack bouncing against my spine. The gas station's neon sign buzzed and flickered. A car sat idling in the far corner of the lot. The door opened before I reached it. Michael stepped out, and even in the dim light, I could see we had the same eyes, the same upward slant, the same wide smile that took over our whole faces. He opened his arms, and I crashed into them. 13 years of absence collapsing into that single moment. "My baby girl," he whispered into my hair. "My beautiful girl." We both cried, standing there in the empty parking lot, holding each other like we might disappear if we let go. "We need to go," he finally said, glancing toward the road. "My friend Ben has an apartment. His son has Down syndrome too. You'll be safe there while we figure this out." The drive took 30 minutes. Michael kept reaching over to squeeze my hand, like he needed to make sure I was real. He told me about the garden center, about the customers who came specifically to ask him about their plants because he knew everything, about the pottery class where he made bowls and vases that sold at the local craft fair, about the swimming team that had won 3 state medals. "I fought for you," he said, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Every year I went back to court, but your mom, she had lawyers, she said things." Ben's apartment was small but warm. His son Than was already asleep, but Ben made us tea and sat with us at the kitchen table while Michael pulled out a folder thick with documents. "Custody papers," he explained, spreading them across the table. "Every petition, every denial. Look at this." He pointed to a form. "Your mom's been collecting disability benefits in your name, and child support from me, while telling everyone I was dead." My stomach churned. All those times she'd said we couldn't afford things, that money was tight, that I should be grateful for what I had. The next morning came too fast. I woke to Michael shaking my shoulder gently, his face tight with worry. "Your stepdad called the police, says you ran away, that you're violent and unstable. We need to be careful." We spent the day researching, calling lawyers, trying to understand our options. Michael had to go to work. He couldn't risk losing his job, but Ben stayed with me. His son Than turned out to be funny and kind, teaching me card games and sharing his comic books. "People think we're stupid," Than said, dealing another hand, "but we just see things different, you know?" I knew. The Special Olympics event was that weekend. Michael had been volunteering there for years, coaching the swim team. He didn't want to go, worried about leaving me, but I insisted. I needed to see him in his world, the life he'd built without me. The pool complex buzzed with energy. Athletes warmed up, families cheered from the stands. Michael introduced me to everyone as his daughter, pride radiating from every word. I helped time races, handed out towels, felt useful in a way I never did at home. That's when David appeared. He pushed through the crowd, his face red and angry. "There she is! That's her." People turned to stare. David reached for my arm, but Michael stepped between us. "Don't touch her. Get out of my way." David tried to shove past him. "She's sick. She needs help. You don't understand what you're dealing with." "I understand perfectly." Michael's voice stayed calm, but his body was solid as a wall. "I'm her father. Her father is dead." The words echoed across the pool deck. Conversation stopped. Even the splashing seemed to quiet. "Do I look dead to you?" More people gathered. Some recognized Michael, had known him for years. The swim team formed a protective semicircle around us. "She's a minor," David sputtered. "You're kidnapping her." "I'm keeping her safe." Mom arrived then, Emma and Chloe trailing behind. She'd dressed them in matching outfits, curled their hair. The perfect family, -1. "Gertrude, sweetheart," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. "We've been so worried. You're confused, honey. This man is taking advantage of you. This man is my father." The words felt powerful in my mouth. "The one you told me was dead." "She's lying," Mom told the growing crowd. "She has issues, makes up stories." That's when Emma's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her face went pale. "Mom? Not now, Emma." "But Mom, I said not now." Emma looked at me, then at her phone, then back at me. Her fingers moved across the screen. My burner phone vibrated in my pocket. A video message. I opened it and nearly dropped the phone. It was David, recorded from Emma's bedroom. His voice was clear. "No wonder your effing dad is dead. Probably saw what was wrong with you and drove into that tree on purpose." "Play it," Emma said quietly. "Play it for everyone." I held the phone up, my hand surprisingly steady. The video played, David's cruel words cutting through the chlorine-scented air. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Several parents covered their children's ears, but it was too late. Everyone had heard. David's face drained of color. He lunged for the phone, but Michael's swimming team closed ranks, blocking his path. These weren't just athletes. They were Michael's friends, people who'd known him for years. "That's taken out of context," David stammered, backing away from the wall of swimmers. "She provoked me. You don't understand what we deal with at home." "We understand plenty," said a woman in a coach's jacket. Her name tag read Vicky. "Michael's been part of our community for 15 years. We know exactly who he is." Mom grabbed Emma's wrist, yanking her close. "What did you do?" Emma pulled free, stepping toward me. I told the truth. The pool manager appeared, drawn by the commotion. He took one look at the situation and pulled out his radio. "Security to the main pool area, please." David turned on Mom, his voice low and dangerous. "Control your daughter." "Which one?" Mom snapped back, then caught herself, but it was too late. The mask had slipped. Security arrived. 2 officers who clearly knew Michael. They positioned themselves between our groups, creating a buffer zone. The taller one addressed David. "Sir, I'm going to need you to leave the premises." "You can't kick me out. She's my daughter." "Stepdaughter," I corrected, finding my voice. "And you've never wanted me." David's jaw clenched. He pointed at Michael. "This This man is mentally incompetent. He has Down syndrome, for God's sake. He can't care for a child. That's enough. The security officer's tone brooked no argument. You need to leave. Now. Mom stepped forward, switching tactics. She touched the officer's arm, tears welling in her eyes. Please, you have to understand. Gertrude has special needs. She requires constant supervision, medication, specialized care. This man can't provide that. What medication? I asked. What specialized care? You've never taken me to any specialists. Never gotten me any help. That's not true, sweetie. You're confused. Name one doctor, one therapist, one specialist you've taken me to. Silence. Michael pulled out his folder, hands steady despite everything. Officer, I have documentation here. Custody papers, court records, proof that I've been fighting for my daughter for years. This isn't the place for this, the officer said. You'll need to sort this out through proper channels. David saw his opening. Exactly. Until then, she comes home with us. No, the word came from Chloe, small and quiet. Everyone turned to stare at her. She stood apart from Mom, arms wrapped around herself. She's not coming home. Chloe, honey, Mom started. I found the letters too, Chloe interrupted. Years ago, in the attic. I know what you did. Mom's carefully constructed composure cracked. You don't understand. I did what was best for everyone. You lied, Chloe said. You lied to Gertrude. You lied to us. You even lied to Dad about— Shut up, David roared, making everyone flinch. Not another word. But Chloe was done being silent. About the money, the disability checks, the child support, where it really goes. The security officers exchanged glances. This was escalating beyond a simple family dispute. We should continue this conversation somewhere private, the taller officer suggested. No, I said. I'm done with secrets. Done with hiding. Everyone here should know what kind of people they are. Michael put a gentle hand on my shoulder. Sweetheart, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I turned to face the crowd, many of whom had stopped pretending they weren't watching. My name is Gertrude. I have mosaic Down syndrome. And for 13 years, my mother told me my father was dead because she didn't think someone with Down syndrome could be a good parent. She collected disability money in my name while treating me like I was broken. She let my stepfather abuse me while protecting the daughters he actually wanted. Gertrude, please, Mom begged. Let's go home and talk about this. That's not my home. It never was. David made one last attempt to grab me, but Michael moved faster than anyone expected. He didn't touch David, just positioned himself as an immovable barrier. The swimming team flanked him, a wall of solidarity. The girl has made her choice, Vicky said, and we support Michael, all of us. Mom pulled out her phone. I'm calling our lawyer. Good, Michael said calmly. Call him. Tell him about the forged signatures on the disability applications, the child support you've been collecting while claiming I was dead, the court documents you hid. I'm sure he'll find it all very interesting. Mom's finger hovered over the screen. The threat hung in the air between us. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. Try me. The standoff stretched taut. Around us, the Special Olympics event continued to pause, athletes and families drawn into our drama. I felt bad for disrupting their day, but I was done being invisible, done being the family secret. Emma broke the silence. I have more videos, other things Dad said, things he did. She looked at David with something like hatred. Want me to play those too? David's face went from red to purple. You little— Enough! The security officer stepped forward. Sir, you're leaving. Now, either voluntarily or in handcuffs. David looked around, realizing he'd lost. The crowd was against him. His own daughters had turned. Even Mom was backing away, calculating her next move. This isn't over, he snarled. But he left, Mom trailing behind him. She paused at the door, looking back at me with an expression I couldn't read. Regret? Anger? Relief? Emma and Chloe stood abandoned in the middle of the pool deck. Emma approached first, tentative. I'm sorry, she said. For everything. For the crying acts. For taking your things. For not standing up for you sooner. I wanted to be angry. I had every right to be. But looking at her, I just felt tired. Why now? Because I heard what Dad said about the tree. And I realized that could have been me if I'd been born different. If I hadn't been what he wanted. Chloe nodded, tears streaming down her face. We were so scared of him, of becoming you. But that wasn't fair. None of it was fair. Michael stepped forward. You girls need to get home. Your parents will be worried. Let them worry, Emma said fiercely. For once, let them know what it feels like. But we all knew they had to go. They were minors, still trapped in that house. As they left, Emma pressed a piece of paper into my hand. My real phone number, the one Mom and Dad don't monitor. Call me. After they left, the crowd slowly dispersed. The event resumed, though whispers followed us everywhere. Michael introduced me to more people, each one welcoming me like I'd always belonged there. No one stared at my features. No one talked slowly or loudly. They just treated me like a person. We stayed until the end, helping clean up, stacking chairs, collecting forgotten towels, normal things, family things I'd never been allowed to do before because David said I'd just get in the way. Back at Ben's apartment, the reality of what I'd done hit me. I'd run away, defied my parents, exposed family secrets in public. There would be consequences. They'll come for me, I said, curled on Ben's couch. They'll make me go back. Over my dead body, Michael said firmly. I've got 13 years of documentation. 13 years of them denying me access to my own daughter. Any judge who sees this. But we both knew it wasn't that simple. Mom had money for lawyers. She had the house, the stable family image. What did Michael have? An apartment, a job at a garden center, and a diagnosis that made people underestimate him. The knock came at dinner time. We all froze, but it wasn't the police. It was a woman in a business suit holding a folder. Michael, I'm Min Chen from Child Protective Services. We received a report of possible abuse regarding Gertrude. May I come in? My heart sank. Of course Mom would call CPS. Paint me as troubled, paint Michael as incompetent. Classic manipulation. But Min surprised me. She sat down, pulled out a notebook, and looked directly at me. Gertrude, I want to hear your story. In your own words. Take your time. So I told her. Everything. The years of invisibility, the birthday disaster, finding the letters, David's cruelty, the money Mom stole. Min listened without interrupting, occasionally jotting notes. I see, she said when I finished. And you have documentation of the custody battles, the forged signatures? Michael produced his folder. Min examined each document carefully, her expression growing more serious with each page. This is substantial, she said finally. Gertrude, where would you like to stay while we investigate this? With my dad, my real dad. She nodded. Given your age and the circumstances, I'm inclined to support that. But there will be procedures, home visits, interviews. Your mother has already contacted us with her version of events. What did she say? Michael asked. That you're mentally unfit, that Gertrude is being manipulated, that she's a danger to herself and others. That's ridiculous, Ben interjected. I've seen how she is here. Calm, helpful, happy. Nothing like what they're describing. Min made more notes. I'll need to interview you as well, Mr. Ben O'Jonathan, and my son, Than. We've known Michael for years. Good. Character witnesses will help. She turned back to me. Gertrude, I need you to understand something. Your mother is pushing for immediate return. She's claiming abandonment, saying Michael kidnapped you. This could get complicated. I have the video, I said, pulling out my phone, of what David said. Emma sent it to me. Min watched the video, her expression carefully neutral. May I have a copy of this? I forwarded it to her email. She stood gathering her papers. For now, you can remain here. But Gertrude, you'll need to attend school. Maintain normal routines. Any sign of truancy or problems, and the court will side with your mother. Understood? I nodded. School. I hadn't even thought about school. After Min left, we sat in silence. The apartment felt smaller somehow, crowded with implications. I should probably go home, I said quietly. I don't want to cause you more trouble. Hey, Michael knelt in front of me, taking my hands. You're not trouble. You're my daughter, and I've waited 13 years to say that to your face. That night, I slept on Ben's couch, but it was the best sleep I'd had in years. No footsteps outside my door. No whispered arguments through the walls. No pretending to be less than I was. The next morning brought new challenges. Michael had to work, but he couldn't leave me alone. CPS would check. So I went with him to the garden center, expecting to be bored out of my mind. Instead, I discovered a different world. Michael didn't just work there. He ran the exotic plants section. Customers sought him out specifically, trusting his expertise. He knew every plant's needs, origin, care instructions. His boss, Mr. Patel, clearly valued him. Your father is our best employee, Mr. Patel told me. Customers drive from 3 towns over just to consult with him. I helped where I could, watering plants, sweeping paths, learning the difference between succulents and cacti. It was peaceful, purposeful, nothing like the chaos at home. That's when David showed up. He stormed through the garden center, knocking over a display of seedlings. Where is she? Michael stepped out from behind the tropical ferns. You need to leave. I'll leave when I get what I came for. David spotted me and lunged forward. Mr. Patel appeared with 2 other employees. Sir, you're disturbing our customers. Please go. You're harboring a runaway, David shouted. I'll have this place shut down. Try it, Mr. Patel said calmly. I have very good lawyers. David turned on Michael. You think you've won? You have no idea what you're dealing with. Linda has connections. Doctors who'll testify about your condition. Teachers who'll confirm Gertrude's behavioral problems. What behavioral problems? I asked. The ones where I quietly did my homework and never caused trouble? Those problems? Shut up! David's control snapped completely. He grabbed a potted plant and hurled it at the ground. Soil exploded across the clean floor. That's when the police arrived. Real police, not security guards. Someone had called them when David started his rampage. That's him, David pointed at Michael. He kidnapped my daughter. The officers looked at the scene. David red-faced and surrounded by destroyed plants. Michael calm and professional. Me standing safely with Mr. Patel. Sir, we're going to need you to calm down, one officer said. I am calm. He's the criminal. From where I'm standing, you're the one who's destroyed property and disturbed the peace. Mr. Patel stepped forward. I want to press charges. This man threatened my employee and vandalized my store. David's mouth opened and closed like a fish. This wasn't going according to his plan. The officers took statements from everyone. When they heard about the CPS investigation, they made some calls. The situation was more complex than a simple vandalism case. Miss, one officer addressed me. Are you here of your own free will? Yes, I'm with my father, my biological father. And do you feel safe? Safer than I've felt in years. They nodded, making notes. David was escorted out, still ranting about lawsuits and connections, but I noticed something. He was scared. For the first time, he was the one without power. The rest of the week passed in a blur. School was complicated. I was enrolled in the district where Mom lived, but staying with Michael in a different area. Min worked some bureaucratic magic to get me a temporary transfer, citing the ongoing investigation. My new school was smaller, less prestigious than the one Emma and Chloe attended, but the special education teacher, Mrs. Martinez, actually knew what mosaic Down syndrome was. You'll need some accommodations, she said, reviewing my files, but nothing like what your previous school reported. These evaluations, they don't match what I'm seeing. We discovered that Mom had been exaggerating my needs for years, probably to justify keeping me dependent. My real academic performance was much higher than my records showed. Emma texted me constantly, keeping me updated on the chaos at home. David had moved into a hotel after the garden center incident. Mom was scrambling, trying to maintain appearances while her carefully constructed life crumbled. She hired 3 lawyers, Emma wrote. Dad's furious about the cost. They're fighting constantly. Part of me me felt guilty. I'd destroyed my family. But then I remembered, they were never really my family, not in the ways that mattered. The custody hearing was set for 3 weeks out. Michael threw himself into preparation, gathering character witnesses, medical records, employment history. The swimming team rallied around him, offering support and testimony. But Mom wasn't giving up without a fight. She started showing up at the garden center, not causing scenes like David, but standing outside, watching. She'd approach customers, telling them sob stories about her stolen daughter. Mr. Patel installed security cameras and gave Michael flexible hours. The community closed ranks, protective of one of their own. Then became my unofficial brother during this time. We'd do homework together, watch movies, play cards. He taught me to see my extra chromosome not as a burden, but as a variation, like having green eyes instead of brown. People think we're limited, he said one evening, beating me at poker again. But we just have different limits. Everyone does. The first supervised visit with Mom was awkward. We met at a neutral location, a family counseling center, with a social worker present. Mom had dressed carefully, every hair in place, makeup perfect. She looked like she was attending a business meeting, not seeing her daughter. Gertrude, she said, reaching for my hands. I let her take them, but felt nothing. I've missed you so much. Have you? Her smile faltered. Of course I have. You're my baby. Then why did you tell me my father was dead? She glanced at the social worker, calculating. I was young, scared. I made mistakes. For 13 years, I was trying to protect you. Michael, he couldn't provide what you needed. Like what? Love? Acceptance? Because he seems to be doing fine with those. Her hands tightened on mine. You don't understand the sacrifices I made, the life I built for us. David gave us stability, security. David gave you what you wanted. 2 normal daughters and a check every month for the broken one. She released my hands, sitting back. For a moment, the mask dropped completely, and I saw the real Linda, tired, angry, trapped in her own lies. I did the best I could, she said quietly. No, you did what was easiest for you. The visit ended shortly after that. There wasn't much else to say. Mom hugged me goodbye, but it felt hollow, performative, like everything else in our relationship. As the hearing approached, the pressure intensified. Mom's lawyers sent letters, demanding evaluations, threatening consequences. David, despite the restraining order from the garden center incident, found ways to make his presence known, following Michael's car, showing up at Than's school events, always just far enough away to avoid legal trouble. Emma and Chloe were struggling too. With David gone and Mom focused on the custody battle, they were essentially raising themselves. Emma stepped up, making sure Chloe ate, got to school, did homework. But they were kids, dealing with adult problems. We might have to move, Emma texted one night. Mom can't afford the house without Dad, and the lawyers are expensive. I felt that familiar guilt creeping in, but Michael reminded me, you didn't cause this. They did. You just stopped letting them hide it. The swimming team organized a fundraiser for Michael's legal fees. The garden center customers contributed. Even my new school chipped in. Teachers who'd only known me for weeks recognizing the injustice of the situation. It wasn't much against Mom's resources, but it was something. 3 days before the hearing, everything changed. Chloe called me hysterical. Mom's gone, she sobbed. She left a note, said she couldn't do this anymore. My heart stopped. What do you mean gone? She packed a bag, took her jewelry, left us here alone. Emma grabbed the phone. We don't know what to do. Do we call the police? Dad's not answering. I looked at Michael, who was already grabbing his keys. We're coming. Don't call anyone yet. Just lock the doors and wait. The drive to my old house felt surreal. The neighborhood looked the same, but everything had changed. The perfect lawn was overgrown. Mail overflowed from the box. Emma and Chloe were huddled on the couch, still in their school uniforms. The note Mom left was brief. I need time to think. David knows what to do. Take care of each other. She abandoned us, Chloe whispered, just like that. Michael took charge, calling Min Chen, explaining the situation. Within an hour, the house was full of social workers and police. David was located at his hotel, hammered and belligerent, in no state to care for anyone. What happens to us? Emma asked, gripping my hand. Min looked tired but determined. We'll need to place you temporarily while we sort this out. Do you have any relatives? Mom's parents are in Florida. They haven't talked to us in years. Dad's family. They don't approve of the divorce. I looked at Michael. He was already thinking the same thing. They could stay with us, he said. If that's allowed, they're Gertrude's sisters. Min raised an eyebrow. That's unconventional. You're already in a custody dispute. Please, Emma begged. We want to stay together, and we want to be near Gertrude. It took hours of phone calls and paperwork, but eventually, Min agreed to a temporary placement. Emma and Chloe would stay with Ben and Thon, with Michael as the supervising adult. It wasn't ideal, but it kept us together. That night, crammed into Ben's small apartment, we were a strange sort of family, broken pieces from different puzzles, trying to form a new picture. Emma and Chloe were shell-shocked, processing their mother's abandonment, then tried to cheer them up with his comic books. Ben made endless cups of tea. Michael sat quietly, probably wondering how his simple wish to know his daughter had exploded into this. I'm sorry, I told him. You didn't sign up for all this. He pulled me close. I signed up for you. Everything else, we'll figure out. The custody hearing was postponed indefinitely. With Mom gone and David dealing with his own legal troubles, there was no one to contest Michael's rights. The years of fighting, the stolen time, the lies and manipulation, it all crumbled without Mom there to maintain it. We learned later that she'd been planning her escape for weeks. The house was remortgaged, credit cards maxed out. She'd even emptied the girls' college funds. The perfect suburban mother had been a house of cards, and when it started falling, she ran. David tried to fight for custody of Emma and Chloe, but his garden center vandalism and the video of his cruelty worked against him. The girls testified about years of emotional abuse, favoritism that went beyond preference into pathology. The court appointed a guardian ad litem who recommended they remain with their current placement. It wasn't easy. Ben's apartment was too small for 5 people. Michael's income from the garden center couldn't support 3 teenagers. But the community that had rallied for the custody fight pivoted pivoted to help with our new reality. Mrs. Martinez connected us with resources for kinship care. The swim team organized meal trains. Mr. Patel gave Michael a raise and helped him find a larger apartment. It wasn't fancy, nothing like the house Emma and Chloe were used to, but it was ours. The first time we all sat down for dinner in the new place, Emma started crying. "What's wrong?" Michael asked, concerned. "Nothing," she said, wiping her eyes. "It's just, this is the first time we've all eaten together, like a real family. And that's what we became. Not the family any of us had planned, but the one we chose." Michael taught us all to swim. Emma discovered she had a talent for plants, helping at the garden center on weekends. Chloe joined Than's comic book club at school. I started taking art classes again, the ones Mom had said were too expensive. 6 months later, we got word about Mom. She'd been arrested in Arizona, caught using a fake ID to cash fraudulent checks. The perfect suburban mother was now facing federal charges. Emma and Chloe decided not to visit her in jail. That chapter was closed. David disappeared after losing his job and most of his assets in the divorce. Last we heard, he'd moved in with his mother in another state. The man who'd lorded his normalcy over me was now the family failure. A year later, at another Special Olympics event, I stood with my family, my real family. Michael was coaching, Emma timing races, Chloe cheering from the stands. Than and I were competing in the relay. As I stood on the starting block, I thought about that scared girl in the attic, finding those letters, discovering her father was alive. I thought about the years of being invisible, of being less than. I thought about Mom's words. She'll never be normal. She was right. I wasn't normal. I was extraordinary. We all were, in our own ways. Extra chromosomes, extra challenges, extra love. A family built from honesty instead of lies, choice instead of obligation. The starting whistle blew. I dove into the water, swimming toward a finish line that was really just another beginning. Behind me, my father cheered. Beside me, my brother swam. Ahead of me, my sisters waited. I wasn't normal. I was home. The apartment search consumed our next weeks. Michael's raise helped, but finding a place that could house 5 people on a garden center salary proved nearly impossible. We toured cramped 2 bedrooms where the landlord's smiles disappeared the moment they counted heads. One property manager actually asked if we were running some kind of group home. Emma took charge of the search, creating spreadsheets and calling listings during lunch breaks. She'd transformed from the manipulative girl who fake cried for attention into someone fiercely protective of our makeshift family. When one landlord made a comment about those people while looking at Michael and Than, she grabbed my hand and marched us out before anyone could respond. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Martinez mentioned that her brother owned a property he'd been struggling to rent. It was older, needed work, but had 4 bedrooms and a yard. The location wasn't great, farther from Michael's work and the good schools, but the price was manageable. We met the landlord on a Saturday morning. He walked through the house pointing out problems like he was trying to talk us out of it. The kitchen cabinets hung crooked, the basement leaked, the furnace made concerning noises, but Emma was already measuring windows for curtains, while Chloe tested every light switch. Michael signed the lease that afternoon. Mr. Patel loaned us his truck for the move, and the swimming team showed up with boxes and muscle. Watching Michael's community embrace my sisters felt surreal. These people who'd been strangers 6 months ago were now hauling furniture and arguing about the best way to arrange the living room. David surfaced 2 weeks after we moved. He'd been staying with his elderly mother in another state, but she'd kicked him out after he'd stolen her credit cards. Now he was back, demanding to see his girls. The confrontation happened outside Chloe's school. I was walking her home, something we'd started after Mom disappeared, when David's car pulled up beside us. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. Chloe grabbed my arm, her whole body tensing. I stepped in front of her, pulling out my phone to record whatever came next. "Get in the car," David ordered, not even looking at me. "Your mother's lawyer needs to see you." "Mom's in jail," Chloe said, her voice small but steady. "She doesn't have a lawyer anymore." David's face twisted. He shoved his door open, and I pushed Chloe behind me, already dialing 911. But before David could get out, a police cruiser turned the corner, not responding to my call, just routine patrol. The officer recognized David's car from the restraining order alert. David saw the cruiser and slammed his door shut, peeling away from the curb. The officer followed, lights flashing. We stood on the sidewalk, Chloe shaking against my shoulder, watching our former life speed away. That night, Emma made us install tracking apps on our phones. She'd become hyper-vigilant about security, checking locks multiple times, keeping David's photo by the door so Than would know not to let him in. Her childhood had ended the day Mom walked out, replaced by a brittle kind of adulthood. School became our refuge and our challenge. My new teachers actually understood mosaic Down syndrome, but years of Mom's manufactured limitations had left gaps. I spent hours catching up, relearning things I should have known, discovering capabilities that had been buried under low expectations. Emma threw herself into academics with frightening intensity. She'd always been smart, but now she studied like her life depended on it. College scholarships were her only path out of our financial situation, she said. She'd make straight A's if it unalived her. Chloe struggled more. She'd been David's favorite after Emma, spoiled and sheltered. Now she had chores, a budget, consequences. She'd sulk about hand-me-down clothes or generic cereal, then catch herself, remembering how much worse things could be. Then became the bridge between our old lives and new. He'd never known anything but love and acceptance, despite his challenges. His parents had fought for him the way Michael had tried to fight for me. Watching him navigate the world with confidence showed us what we'd missed, and what was possible. The financial strain hit hard. Michael's raise helped, but supporting 3 teenagers on a single income meant constant juggling. Emma got a part-time job at a bookstore. I started selling my art online. Small pieces, nothing fancy, but every bit helped. Chloe babysat for neighbors, learning responsibility along with earning money. We developed routines that would have horrified our old life. Tuesday nights were coupon cutting sessions. Saturdays meant garage garage sales and thrift stores. Emma learned to cut hair from YouTube videos. I mended clothes with skills learned from occupational therapy that Mom had deemed unnecessary. The pool remained our constant. Michael coached 3 nights a week, and we all went, even when we didn't feel like it. Emma discovered she had a talent for teaching younger kids. Chloe made friends with other siblings who came to watch. I improved my times, actually competitive now without the weight of Mom's limitations. Mom's first letter arrived 3 months after her arrest. Addressed to Emma, forwarded through her lawyer. Emma stared at the envelope for a long time before sliding it across the dinner table to Michael. "I can't," she said. "Someone else read it first. Please." Michael opened it carefully. His expression didn't change as he read, but his knuckles went white. He set the letter down, looked at each of us. "She wants you to testify on her behalf. Says she's sick, needs treatment, not prison. Promises she's changed." Emma laughed, sharp and bitter. "Changed. Right. There's more," Michael said quietly. "She says she has information about hidden assets, money she saved. She'll tell you where it is if you help her." The room went silent. We all knew how much we needed money, how much easier life would be with even a small cushion. Emma's college fund, Chloe's braces, new shoes that actually fit. "No," I said. "Whatever she's offering, it comes with strings. It always does." Emma nodded slowly. "Gertrude's right. We've come this far without her money." Chloe looked less certain, but she didn't argue. Michael put the letter in a drawer. We never responded. David's final appearance came at the grocery store. I was comparing prices on pasta sauce, the kind of mundane task that had become second nature. When he rounded the corner, we both froze. He looked smaller somehow, deflated. The man who'd terrorized my childhood was just another middle-aged guy buying frozen dinners. He opened his mouth, closed it, then turned his cart around and left. I stood there shaking, pasta sauce forgotten, until an employee asked if I was okay. I said yes, paid for my groceries, drove home carefully, told Michael what happened. He called the police to document the encounter, just in case. Emma's acceptance letter arrived on a Thursday. Full scholarship to the State University engineering program. She'd applied to a dozen schools but only told us about 3. The others were too expensive, she said, even with aid. She cried when she read it. Not the manipulative tears of her childhood, but real, exhausted, relieved sobs. Chloe hugged her. Than did a victory dance. Michael said he was proud, his voice thick with emotion. That night, Emma showed me her spreadsheet. Every dollar saved, every expense cut, every sacrifice calculated. She'd been planning her escape since Mom left, but it wasn't escape anymore. It was building something better. "I'll come home weekends," she promised. "Help with groceries. Watch Chloe. Live your life," I told her. "We'll manage." The custody finalization happened without fanfare. With Mom incarcerated and David's rights terminated, Michael's adoption of me was straightforward. The judge asked me a few questions, signed papers, and suddenly the father I'd thought was dead was legally mine. Emma and Chloe's situation took longer. The state required assessments, home visits, background checks, but Min Chen advocated fiercely for keeping us together. The swimming community wrote letters. Mrs. Martinez testified about our stability. 6 months after Mom abandoned them, the court approved Michael as their guardian. Not adoption, they weren't ready for that, but legal protection, belonging. Summer arrived with new challenges. No school meant juggling childcare and work. Than's parents helped when they could, but we couldn't rely on their charity forever. Emma worked full-time at the bookstore. I picked up shifts at the garden center, learning the Latin names Michael had memorized, understanding his world. Chloe went to day camps when we could afford it, hung out at the library when we couldn't. She'd grown quieter since everything happened, processing trauma in ways we didn't always recognize. Michael found a counselor who worked on a sliding scale. Slowly, she started talking about the fear she'd lived with, the pressure to be perfect. The Special Olympics regional meet was our 1-year anniversary of sorts. A year since David had tried to drag me away, since Emma had sent that video, since everything changed. Now we arrived as a team. Michael coaching, Emma and Chloe volunteering, Than and I competing. My race was the 100-meter freestyle. I'd trained hard, Michael adjusting my strokes, building my endurance. But when I stood on the starting block, I wasn't thinking about winning. I was thinking about the girl who'd found those letters in the attic, who'd thought she was broken, who'd believed the lies. The whistle blew. I dove, muscle memory taking over. The pool was silent except for the rush of water, the rhythm of breathing. I touched the wall and surfaced to cheering. 3rd place. My best time ever. Michael pulled me from the pool, pride radiating from every gesture. Emma wrapped me in a towel. Chloe bounced with excitement, then high-fived me, water flying everywhere. "Look," Emma said, pointing to the stands. Mrs. Martinez was there with her family. Mr. Patel had closed the garden center early to attend. Ben was taking pictures. The swimming team cheered like I'd won gold. Our community, built from fragments and determination. That night, we celebrated at the pizza place that had good coupons. Emma talked about her engineering orientation. Chloe showed off her latest drawings, then challenged everyone to arcade games. Michael sat quietly, watching us with an expression I'd learned to recognize. Not sadness for the lost years, but gratitude for what we'd built. The fortune cookies came with the bill. Mine read, "Home is not where you are from. It is where you belong." I looked around the table at my patchwork family. At Michael, who'd fought for 13 years to know me. At Emma and Chloe, who'd chosen truth over comfort. At Than, who'd shown us that different didn't mean less. We weren't the family any of us had planned. We were something harder and more honest. Something earned rather than assumed. We were home.